All right, picture this. Imagine a person sitting completely alone in a quiet room, just staring at a very simple, static number on a screen, $10,000. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to dive into a genuinely fascinating phenomenon. You see, for some people, looking at that exact number feels like a massive emotional turning point. It holds immense, life-changing weight. But for others, it barely even registers. It's just a tiny blip in the larger flow of their day-to-day decisions. So today, we're going to unpack exactly why money feels so drastically different depending on the context it's placed in.
I want you to just anchor on this specific amount for a second. 10 grand. Take a moment and feel what that number actually represents to you right now. As we just noted, this single figure can be a life-altering windfall to one person and, well, pretty much a rounding error to another.
And that really brings us to our core mystery. Why does this exact same number feel so drastically different depending on who happens to be looking at it? Now, the easy, obvious assumption is that it's just a matter of income, right? Or maybe financial education, or even personal discipline. But honestly, it goes so much deeper than that. The real difference is actually deeply structural. Okay, let's dive into this.
Part 1. Contrasting the systems.
To truly wrap our heads around this, we first have to totally step away from the idea that money is experienced objectively. The human brain just doesn't process money as static numbers on a page. It processes money as impact, as pressure, and as consequence. Take a look at the left side here, the survival system. In this system, $10,000 is a panicked calculation. It's replacing a blown car engine. It's covering 2 months of rent. The brain automatically fragments that money into immediate needs. Every single dollar is practically given a job before it even hits the bank account. Scarcity literally trains our attention to do this. But if you look at the allocation system on the right, that exact same $10,000 sits inside a completely different mental framework. It isn't life-altering capital anymore. It's a unit of motion. It might be used to quietly test out a new corporate ad campaign. It moves fluidly between categories like opportunity, liquidity, or leverage. In this system, it's evaluated by what it prevents or enables in motion, not just by what it can consume.
Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of scale conditioning.
So what is the underlying psychological mechanism actually driving this massive, stark contrast between these two systems? Well, it's not just emotional intelligence or financial wisdom. It's a behavioral economics concept called scale conditioning. Basically, this is the process where the brain learns what feels normal through repeated exposure to money at different scales, slowly but surely rewiring how we perceive value. In behavioral economics, it is your reference frame, not the absolute number, that completely defines perceived value.
You see, human psychology simply doesn't scale linearly with money. It scales through repetition. Think about it like this. If someone is repeatedly making decisions involving $100 or maybe $500, then suddenly seeing $10,000 feels absolutely massive because it sits way outside their learned, normal, everyday range. But if someone regularly makes decisions involving $100,000, then that same $10,000 becomes just a tiny segment inside a much larger flow of capital. It's not that wealthy individuals feel nothing about money, their reference frame is just significantly wider.
Which brings us to Section 3, the math of the emotional numerator.
We've talked about the psychology, but let's actually visualize the math behind this shift. Imagine a system where the monthly income is somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000. When you compare that to our $10,000 anchor, the ratio is kind of extreme, right? In this system, $10,000 represents 2 to 5 whole months of total income. Any movement of that amount is structurally massive. It requires intense planning and deep emotional justification because the margin for error in a system like this is incredibly small.
Now flip the script and contrast that with a system maintaining a continuous monthly cash flow of $50,000 or more, often combined with generating assets. Here, $10,000 is just a tiny sliver of the pie. It's a fraction of the monthly movement. It becomes statistically far less dominant in decision-making because the system itself is structurally designed to just easily absorb fluctuations of that exact size.
And this leads us to a pretty profound rule. When your financial denominator grows, the emotional numerator shrinks relative to it. This is a core mathematical concept of scale conditioning. And there's actually a really subtle psychological consequence here. People very often assume that simply having a higher income automatically reduces your sensitivity to money. But in reality, it's the predictability and stability of the inflow that changes how the brain categorizes risk. If your income is stable and diversified, $10,000 is just one single data point in a continuous cycle, which heavily reduces the emotional friction.
Okay, let's head into Section 4, Decision Fatigue and Automated Flow.
Let's introduce another deeply impactful layer to these financial systems. Limited resources severely amplify the psychological weight of our choices. When financial resources are scarce, $10,000 turns into a whole series of highly stressful trade-offs. Do I pay the rent? Do I knock out some debt? Do I invest in my education? Fix an immediate burning problem like a broken furnace? Or do I just delay consumption entirely? Every single micro-decision carries a heavy emotional cost, leading really quickly to profound decision fatigue. 10 grand isn't just money here. It's a battleground of choices.
But at higher scales, sophisticated financial systems structurally absorb these micro-decisions through automated allocation. Think about it. Savings, investments, operating expenses, liquidity reserves, they're all essentially on autopilot. So when $10,000 appears, it doesn't require rebuilding the entire decision framework from scratch. It just gets placed right into an existing structure. It's really vital to correct a common misconception here. It's not that wealthy individuals are totally indifferent to $10,000. Not at all. It's simply that their systems automatically remove the identity-level emotional distortion from the decision-making process.
Next up, Section 5, Stages of Financial Scaling and Time Horizons.
Look, what we're discussing isn't simply a blunt rich versus poor dynamic. The truth is, every financial system passes through 3 distinct phases. In step 1, the survival phase, money is purely urgency. You're just putting out fires. In step 2, the stability phase, money shifts into being about status management and maintaining a sense of security. Finally, in step 3, the allocation phase, money transforms completely into leverage. At each and every one of these stages, the meaning of that exact same $10,000 changes entirely, simply because the structure around it has fundamentally evolved.
At a deeper level, this is heavily influenced by time horizons. Short time horizons compress money into urgency and immediate problem solving. It's a pressing issue that needs an answer yesterday. Conversely, long time horizons distribute money into systems as just another variable in a much larger equation. The absolute most important insight here is that the difference isn't in how much people value the money itself. The difference lies in what they actually expect that money to do over time.
And finally, Section 6, the paradigm shift.
So pulling all of these concepts together, scale conditioning, the emotional numerator, automated flow, and time horizons, really gives us one central thesis. Money does not just measure wealth, it measures the structures someone is operating within. When you look through this specific lens, the question is no longer why wealthy people think differently about a certain amount of money. The real light bulb moment is realizing that when your financial structure changes, the meaning of the number itself quietly yet radically transforms. The shift doesn't happen in the number on the screen. It happens in the system that defines that number.
So we return to the exact same anchor number we started with, $10,000. Look at it again. After exploring the systems of survival versus allocation, the emotional numerator, and the sheer power of scale conditioning, just pause for a second and notice how your own perception of this isolated figure might feel just a little bit different now. It's no longer just a static figure, is it? It's a reflection of an entire system.
I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. What stage of financial scaling is your system currently in? Take a hard look at your own financial denominator, the structure you've built, and your personal time horizons. Because honestly, understanding your current system is the very first step to intentionally rewiring what money means to you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the structures around you.